Hi, Tom Cole, and welcome into the Steve Taylor Community Star of the Month. And certainly it's an honor and a privilege to have Kristina White here from Springfield Schools. And Kristina, congratulations on being the Steve Taylor Community Star. So very cool.
Absolutely.
You do so much for so many. I'll just give the folks a few of the things. I mean, the work that you do at Springfield High School, you know, you're a liaison to the students, the teachers, and the community, connecting everyone in Springfield to making them feel that they are really connected to their school. And today, you know, that's vitally important. You're an integral part of the Chuck Ealey Undefeated Spirit, which has become, I think we're in 10 or 11 years of doing that, which Steve helped sponsor. Terry is now a new board member with us, Terry Crosby. And that's an incredible night. You've been intimately involved with the Jefferson Awards. You just recently received the 1 in a Million Award, which, you know, was tremendous. Your lists of accomplishments are literally this long. But what I am interested in is you at the core of who you are, the giving. You're a person, I've met a lot of people in my 69 years here on Earth. You are one of the best people I've ever met in my life at giving and not asking anything in return. You just give and then you kind of walk away. You know, you're not looking for credit, you're not looking for anybody to pat you on the back, you're not looking for anything. That comes from somewhere. Where does that come from with you? That selfless giving.
Well, absolutely my faith and my family, how I was raised. But when you think of it, Tom, I watch you. I explained this to my mom the other day because she said, Kristina, why do you have to be at this? I said, you know, Mom, why were you at my games?
Right.
Why were you at the places the students that I interact with are actually my kids. Their parents share them with me because my husband and I were not able to have children of our own. So this is my way of really connecting and hopefully passing the things that were given to me by my family along. We laugh and joke, and the guys will maybe talk about it today, but I brought you cookies.
Yeah.
Because I remember growing up, getting off the bus, coming into the house, and the smell of spices and things always in the kitchen, and how that made me feel. It doesn't cost anything to give that to somebody, but it's a memory that I carry, and I'm a little bit older than grade school now, so those memories are with me. I want to pass that along, and I can't give that to my own child. So if I can connect with a student in that way, and you know, trust me on this one, especially high school boys are hungry by the time I see them after school.
Right.
So if a cookie makes a difference for them, and then together we can create a memory. I use my camera an awful lot. But what I talk about is not taking pictures, but creating memories. And then when those memories come up 10 years or 5 years, it takes you back to a place where you were doing something special. In my case, it's serving.
Right.
It's serving with the students side by side with the teachers, watching those memories really come back to life and hopefully motivating those individuals that I was with at that time to carry that forward to somebody else in their life.
You know, Kristina, to me, you are, I believe in it 1,000%, you're an encourager. And I don't think that, you know, people, when you say encourager, a lot of times people think, oh yeah, that's great for kids. Well, it is great for young folks to be encouraged. It allows them, it gives them confidence. I see the kids when they're around you, when we go to events, like we have their Christmas tree event at the hospital. But I see the kids when they're involved in these events with you, you give them confidence. It's encouragement. You make them feel they can be more than they are. Adults need encouragement. You know, it's not just kids. You know, you encourage adults. I just think you're a great encourager, and I think that our society needs as many of those people as, because the can't people are out there. You need people telling you can do it, and that's really how you've lived your life.
Well, thank you. Y'all like sports an awful lot. And Adam Beal is a junior now at the University of Toledo. Gonna hit the field soon, hopefully.
Yes.
And I remember going to Toledo Hospital and wrapping gifts after we had done probably the first or second toy drive, and I needed somebody to do an interview. And I also knew that Adam could articulate, but I also knew that Adam didn't want to, because at that point in time, he was a junior or senior in high school, wasn't used to a microphone being put in his face. He gave me, and we still talk about the looks that he gave me when I said, Adam, you're going to do this. And he's like, no. I said, oh, yeah, you are. Because I don't let them say no. If they know that I see something in them, I do think because they also know my high standards. If you're going to represent my school district,
Right.
if you're going to represent really my family,
Yes.
I'm going to prepare you so that you're not going to embarrass anyone, but it's going to push you. And sometimes it's a size 7.5 shoe in the back end pushing at them. But in the long run, and I said to him after he did the interview, and I said, there are going to be times in the future where you're not going to have time to prep because you're going to come off that field, you will have made an incredible play for the Rockets, somebody's going to put a mic in your face. Maybe, just maybe, you're going to go back to that memory of how you did it the first or second time. That's what encouraging. I had people that did that to me. I didn't have the confidence. I wanted to be the Kool-Aid mom in the neighborhood.
Right.
And when that opportunity was taken away, I needed to look at myself differently and take myself seriously in different ways.
The students trust you. See, I think trust, students will go a long way with you if they know that you're not going to put them in a position that will embarrass them, put them in a position where they, won't do well. They trust you, so that if you tell them they can do this, they feel a confidence that, Kristina said I can do it, so let's go do it. And that's a huge issue, the trust. Well, I'll stop here, and I'm going to hand off to Terry Crosby, who's then going to pick up the interview, and then Terry will hand off to Mr. Steve Taylor, and he'll wrap it up with you. But from my standpoint, Kristina, there's no person in the community that gives more selflessly than you do, and congratulations on being a Steve Taylor Community Star, because you really are.
Thank you.
How you doing this morning?
Doing great.
And thanks for coming to the 10 Automotive family. We appreciate that. We've worked before in the past many times, and this is really this has always been an interest for me. I like to find out or be identified what drives successful people. Steve Taylor and his dad, I love talking to them because they have been so successful in the car industry. Tom Cole, I work with him every day. He teaches me every day. He's a wonderful person, one of the most congenial. So these are success stories. And you're the same. You are in that category. The thing is, I want to say to you, what has driven you, and what can you tell young people out there to maybe make an impact in their lives and to motivate them?
I say this a lot. Certainly my faith is a huge driving force, but a large piece of that is the sense of family. I am surrounded by children, and you don't know that when you just met. When you and I met, you have no idea what my background is. You got to peel that onion back. You got to dig a little bit deeper. And in my case, I get asked a lot, how many kids do you have? And some will say I have 4,000. Others will say I have none of my own. My entire family is located outside of the Toledo area. So if I want to have that sense of family, if I want to pass the traditions, if I want to do any of those things that somebody else did for me, I had incredibly strong mentors, both male and female. The males that said, you can do this, and the females that said, you've got to do this. And it's hard to, when you have a mentor like that, you don't want to let them down. And I didn't want to let my mentors down. And as I said before, I have a husband that is just an incredible source of support and pushes me out of my comfort zone a great deal. But really, it all boils down to wanting to pass along the things that were important to me, those traditions from my family, my memories that I truly want other people, whether they're this big, whether they're this big, or whether they're taller, to have that opportunity to have those same really good memories. Because someday I'm not gonna have a job anymore. I'm gonna choose to walk away from this, and I need to draw from something. And friendships, when I have students that I remain in touch with that graduated 10 or more years ago, we share something beyond, and it's experiences.
Yes.
So when you ask me what drives me, it's that desire to, and my need to create a sense of family. Springfield has been my family.
Yes. And you know what, I so appreciate it. So does millions of others out there appreciate, the impact you had in people's lives. It's been absolutely wonderful. So I thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
How has Springfield as a whole, as a group, as a team, how have you guys coped with the COVID-19 pandemic? The safety measures and all the rest of it. just give us a little bit of insight on, how you were able to open back up, and now that you have opened back up, how are you dealing with that?
Teachers talk a lot about being lifelong learners, about the joy of reading, the love of reading, the relationships, the connections that you have to make. As a lifelong learner, the first thing you figure out during a pandemic especially is what you don't know, you don't know. And then you ask, who knows what I don't know? And you see, I watched the team that I am fortunate to be a part of assemble, put together, not have one person trying to do everything, but trusting the expertise and the talent of the individuals. Springfield Superintendent Matt Geha, I don't know when he sleeps, I don't know how he sleeps sometimes, but he trusts his team. If he needs something communicated, he'll come to me, we work together. No one person has an ultimate responsibility other than him, and then on to the Board of Education. But there are industry professionals that we all interact with. I communicate with every communicator in every school district. We talk to one another. What are you putting out? How are you saying? What have you heard from the health department? We have nurses. We have MAP meeting with the Lucas County Health Department. So a plan was put together, and what I loved about Springfield, and we were pushed and pushed and pushed, tell us a plan, tell us a plan, tell us a plan, decide what you're going to do. And Matt said, you know what, we've got 3 different plans, and we're going to look at what the data tell us so that we make sure that we're not going to put a student, a student's family, extended or otherwise, a staff member's extended family, anyone at any greater risk. And to do that meant refitting our buildings. We have more hand sanitizers in more areas than you can imagine, and some sad things.
So they were drastic changes.
Oh my goodness. Cafeterias where you took those great big long tables where the kids would get together and interact and get all their wiggles out during the day, those had to go to either the long ones with just 2 people, or in our cases, with the classrooms being taken down to half size, we took some of those smaller kid desks and put them in the cafeteria. That sounds really innovative, but when you think about it, think about how you felt as a 7, 8-year-old, isolated, maybe in the cafeteria, or maybe in your case you were surrounded by all of your friends. It doesn't matter, but all of a sudden you're going to be isolated because you have to keep a 6-foot distance all around these kids. We all have our bubbles, and that's hard. I came in, we wanted to hug, we didn't, we can't. Tell that to a 7-year-old that just is excited about seeing more than the eyes through a screen of their teacher. And I'll tell you something else, and I cannot say enough for educators. I've been in the school district for 21 years, and I've watched times where we have tried as an educational industry to mobilize and make a change very quickly, to put a new practice in, and there's always, we need to study it, we need to pilot it. All of a sudden, there was no study, there was no pilot, you were going to do this. And to watch the talents of teachers come out and then be transferred to their kids, it's not their students. I caught myself, because a lot of the writing that I've always done, I've protected. I don't refer to the individuals that come as our children or our kids. I talk about our students. And I changed that dialogue during the pandemic, because these are the kids. These teachers feel about these students almost as dearly as they do their own children. So if you ask me what I've seen, other than the retrofitting of the taking temperatures when kiddos get off the bus, and having isolation rooms now, and having distancing and all of those things, for me, what I've loved more than anything else, Terry, is that teachers are finally seen as the heroes that they deserve to be.
Congratulations. And Kristina, it's always a pleasure to see you and talk to you. I love you to death. But now we're going to turn you over to the best boss in the world. You know who that is, Mr. Steve Taylor. Thanks for coming.
If Matt Geha can't be here, we'll take Steve Taylor.
Hey everybody, Steve Taylor here with our Community Star of the Month, Kristina White. Congratulations and thank you for being here.
Oh my goodness, I'm still speechless, and that's not easy.
Well, it's been great. Obviously Tom and Terry have asked you a bunch of great questions, and people have got to know you a little bit better. One thing that I know we didn't bring up is you are true to Toledo. Born and raised, TPS, University of Toledo. Talk a little bit about your love of Toledo, because it sounds like you're really all in when it comes to Toledo.
Yeah, I really am. I've traveled so much, both within my career, within my personal life. There's no place else that I wanted to be, but there's no place else that I think could meet the needs both personally, professionally, and for my family than Toledo.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was born here also, and if I went away to school, came back to Toledo. I love it, and Northwest Ohio is home for me too, so
Oh my
great
God.
place.
We have the lake. We've got great sports. I mean, people that really know me know how much a Red Wings fan I am. So
First time we met, we partnered up with with the kids over at the Toledo Children's Hospital, and it was the first time that I had been to this event. Tom talked about the tree lighting and the gifts. To say that you were all in is an understatement. I was there and watched as kids just kept bringing more and more gifts out. That's something that I was blown away, and we're excited to be part of that and to be able to help just a little bit. But at Springfield, you guys do such a phenomenal job every single year. I forget now, you last year we had a photo of the number of toys that have been brought in. Do you remember that number? It's thousands, right?
I think McKenna will tell me that it's now, we've gone over six different figures. So
Yeah.
we're pretty excited about it. But I have to tell you that is not something that either McKenna Rice or I did. I mean, sure, the students know that we're behind them. They know that we're motivators. But if we told somebody to do something, they would, there's a percentage of kids that will do things. But when we ask them, what do you want to do? What means something to you? What can be more meaningful? The growth in leadership, their communication skills. I talked a little bit about, a student that didn't want to do interviews.
Sure.
And when they own it, you know that, because I know I've watched you motivate your staff too. When they own the idea, when they own the feeling that idea has created,
Right.
you can't stop them. But until they've had that opportunity to experience it for themselves, it's just another job they have to do. We try to take that job out and have it become an experience that they'll carry with them for life. And when they get to see a student or a kiddo, in your case, the first time we met, it was pens. You did the markers for the windows, so that if somebody had just gotten a diagnosis, they were in for chemo and they just wanted to write, "I hate cancer," and then be able to erase that.
Right.
You provided them with a vehicle to do that with, erasable markers that work on glass. Who would have thought, when you're doing a toy drive, to give kids erasable markers? And yet those are things that the kids come up with. So our students, as much as I'd love to tell you that it's us motivating it, they make us look so good on that project. They really do.
It was unbelievable to be a part of and to see the experience. And like you said, the kids that are there, they just keep going back to the truck and bringing more and more toys out for the kids, and the selfless act of giving. It's unbelievable, and it starts at the top.
2 buses this year.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, we're hoping that COVID doesn't get in the way. We've already got some plans to make things happen just in case, but for the most part, we're not going to let the kiddos that are hospitalized at Christmas down.
Well, we're looking forward to helping out again with that. So as Tom and Terry both said, when we got a hold of your resume and looked at all of your previous experiences and all the fantastic things you've done in our community, I mean, it's overwhelming to say the least, and there's so many fantastic things. Is there something in your mind that sticks out, or that you can say, this was something I was involved with that just created that experience, and really, it was one of those things that I'll always remember? Is there one in particular?
There is. It was a phone call from Dave Schlottiger at Leadership Toledo, because Springfield had just contacted me to say, Kristina, we're having some issues. We need to take your contract down to 3 days a week. Is this something that you would be interested in? And I said that, you were stunned.
Sure.
Especially you talk about how important I am, and I'm thinking, the walls are going to fall down if I'm not here. And all of a sudden, the potential of me not being there. And Dave Schlottiger, who was the executive director of Leadership Toledo at the time, called and said, hey, we just heard that Springfield, can we have whatever time they don't use? We've been contacted by the National Jefferson Awards organization. They want us to pilot a project. We'd love to have you take that on. And it was like somebody reached down and just shook me. Because again, I'm real comfortable staying in the background. I like to be the person, that little voice in the superintendent's ear to say, me stepping into, and I fought Tom on this, I don't like the attention. I really just want to do my thing. And Leadership Toledo forced me to trust the ideas that I had, trust my heart, trust my spirit, interact with kids not that I was comfortable with in Springfield, but from all over the region. Took me to Washington, D.C. to meet people that I never thought. I met Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She came off the wrong end of a stage. And I still, when she passed away, I posted, I have never thanked God so much that she came off the wrong end of the stage, because I got to escort her to the media room for interviews, and I got to talk to her on the way.
What an experience.
A seated Supreme Court justice that I got to walk with, and then 2.5 or 3 years after that, I got to meet Sonia Sotomayor, who just decided that she was coming out into the crowd and she was leaning on my chair, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So when somebody asks me, both personally and professionally, what that moment was, I wish I could tell them that it was a professor that I had at the University of Toledo or a teacher that I had in school, but it honestly was a phone call saying, can we use the time that Springfield might not? And I was able to stay at Springfield, which was perfect. And it grew from a 4-school pilot to a 41-school project within the region, and it forced me to walk away and not use the following words, the future is in good hands, and switch to, these are young leaders of today that are capable, competent, and are making a difference right now. I could become that voice, and boy was that has been a heady time for me.
That's fantastic. They were lucky to make that call, and actually that you had that free time to give to them.
I was lucky.
So you impacted so many kids' lives too, not like you said, not just in Springfield, but in our community. And the confidence that you give children too is I've seen it firsthand. Like you said with the interviews, gentle nudges, right, to get them to do things that maybe they don't want to do, but you know will help them down the road. So they're lucky, obviously, to have someone like you in their life.
Thank you.
Real quick, before we wrap up, how do people in Northwest Ohio, there's so many, we talk about the brain drain, we've heard this negative thing about the brain drain in Northwest Ohio and Toledo, and I completely disagree with that. I think there's so many positive things going on in Northwest Ohio. But there's a lot of people out there who I think want to get involved and they want to do more, but they don't know the first step to take or how to get involved. What recommendations or advice would you give to any of the listeners to maybe say, here's the first thing you can do, or here's how you can get involved? You've done so many things, but there's some people out there that might say, well, where do I start? Do you have any suggestions for folks?
I absolutely do, because it's the same conversation that I have with whether they're 13 or whether they're 33. Find your passion. If you love puppies, kitties, call Abby Hall at the Humane Society and say, not this is what I want to do for you, because although that's wonderful, that may not be what they need.
Sure.
Have conversations, connect with other people. Who do you admire? Who motivates you? When you see a story, you go, okay, email them. I love the emails that I get from somebody saying, hey, I just saw on LinkedIn, or I saw an interview, or I'm gonna guess that I may get a couple after doing this with you. And if I have parents call me to say, I want my child, I'll say, you know what, I love that, but why don't you have your child?
Sure.
Give me a call and have those conversations. So it really is about connections. I made my connections, I never left, but my stronger connections were when I was at the Convention and Visitors Bureau and met the leaders of the organizations. I sought them out and just asked, what can I do? I love that. I love the open-ended question, what can I do? Because I've never had somebody say, oh, there's nothing that we need. So discovering what you're passionate about, what motivates you, have mentors help you find those things. I'm going to do my plug for Leadership Toledo, because that was important when I went through the Leadership Toledo program. That opened doors for me. I met individuals that were like me that were looking to do that. And they have this tagline of lead, connect, grow, serve. And a good leader is also a good follower. A good leader knows that they're not going to be able to accomplish anything by themselves. I want to grow. I don't care how old you are, you should never stop. And serving is just something that I come by naturally. I had a mom that was always serving, and I want to be that role model for others, that when something good is possible in the community, or if a tragedy has happened, that somebody knows in some way I'm going to try to be involved with that.
That's Fantastic. Well, you definitely have done that and then some. Springfield's lucky to have you. We're lucky to have you in Northwest Ohio. Congratulations on being our Star of the Week. Thank you for the cookies. Now, I have to ask, last year, I think, did I hear right? You guys made a few cookies for the 180?
We did.
How many cookies did you make?
About 12,000 for them.
12,000 cookies. Unbelievable. Always giving. Kristina, thank you for being here. Congratulations. And thanks so much for what you do in the community.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you next time for another Steve Taylor Community Star of the Month. Have a good one.